Their county.
Did I hear my name?
I did. I said, have they counted you?
Members, if you could, please take your seats. Welcome to the second meeting of the Senate Transportation meeting for this session. I'd ask members and guests, as always, to please silence your phones. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Senator Carpenter. Senator Higdon. Senator Mills.
Here.
Senator Smith. Present. Senator Turner. Here. Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Yates.
Present.
Chairman Storm.
Here. It appears we have a quorum. We're duly constituted to do business. A copy of the minutes in our meeting from our meeting on January 24th are in the members' files. If there are no edits or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay.
Aye.
The minutes are adopted. Do any members have special guests they'd like to introduce? Having seen none, the only item on our agenda today is the discussion of the implementation of KYTC's new motor vehicle information system, KAVIS. I'd like to note for the members that last week the Cabinet was given a list of technical questions regarding specific issues that have come to light during the implementation. The Cabinet has responded, and those answers are in the members' folders and have also been posted to the meeting material tabs on the committee's page for this meeting. We have representatives from both KYTC and the County Clerks Association here for presentations. We have Heather Stout from the Cabinet. I'd ask you to come to the table and introduce any guests you may have that will be testifying with you. And we'll also hold questions until after your presentation. Senator Mills does have a special guest he'd like to introduce.
In our small crowd today, we have Craig Richardson back here in the back, who is Senator-elect for Christian County. Is that correct? Yep. So we want to welcome him today. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today. Stout, you're welcome to introduce yourself and introduce the Secretary.
Hi, I'm Heather Stout. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Information Technology for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, and I have with me Secretary Jim Gray.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. I'm gonna kick it off. I'm joined by Heather Stout, who is really one of those commendable public servants. I can say from having spent a career in the private sector that she's one of the government leaders and managers that anybody in the private sector would want to recruit because of her talent and her commitment. But you know, whenever I told her that, she said, "But I love what I'm doing." And we all remember that old aphorism, when you love your work, you never work a day in your life. And I am just enormously appreciative of Heather because of that level of talent and commitment and the leadership that she brings to her role. You know, she doesn't just have this project, but she has other projects, of course, throughout the Transportation Cabinet. And whatever she does outstandingly well. Okay, that's my promotion of Heather Stout. But first, before we get into her presentation, I'm going to give a little context for the project, which is arguably the largest single information systems project in the state's history. So, you all have seen and heard, or some of you have, because there have been many presentations over the course of the KAVIS project to various committees, so some of you may have heard the presentations before. But in order to put some context to it, the existing AVIS system, or soon to be former AVIS system, was actually launched in the 70s as a mainframe project. And at a time when mainframes dominated the scene, of course, and when computers were large and expensive and information was stored on floppy disks. When I was talking to Heather about the project a few weeks ago, she reminded me that she was not even born when Avis was born. So it was a difficult to support and difficult to maintain system. Simply couldn't perform the functions a 21st century enterprise needs to perform to work efficiently. For example, the information was sorted by vehicles and not by customers, making it difficult to get a comprehensive look at records tied to a specific owner. The system tied our hands when it came to expanding services and enhancements. Simple things like adding a field to collect email addresses to communicate with customers, that was a challenge. Because of the size and the complexity of the project, introducing a new system, our team approached the project in phases, gradually rolling out KAVIS modules over the past 8 years that have improved operations and efficiency. We implemented boat titling and registration, a standardized point-of-sale system, disabled placard improvements, print-on-demand decals, and new flat license plates. Now, introducing those features has improved efficiency. It's also saved money. Today, we're here to focus on the recent rollout of KAVIS that moves all vehicle information to the new system and sunsets Avis. Preparation for this push happened years ago, and training for clerks started last February of 2023, so a year ago. Last November, we announced that a temporary shutdown would begin at the end of December, with a short-term closure of county clerk offices in January. Why was that? Well, there was a need to transfer some 250 million vehicle records from Avis to KAVIS. 250 million. Not insignificant. The team worked hard to keep the closure period as short as possible. We had to shut off Avis and turn on KAVIS statewide. Now, why was that? Well, because vehicles get bought and sold across counties, across county lines, so a phased county-by-county approach would have been very challenging and problematic. The new system would not only introduce a more modern business solution, but would allow for advancements to be implemented that benefited customers, like getting to keep their license plate if they sell or trade a car, or introducing new special license plates for vehicle owners who wanted to support their favorite nonprofits. During the week of January 8th, counties gradually resumed in-person services using the new system. So roughly 16, is that right? You're going to talk about this, 16 business days ago. We expected to encounter some system issues to a degree when we launched. Not unexpected. That's normal when introducing, of course, a new system and taking it from a test environment into the real world. Some issues were identified as clerks processed the really endless combinations of transactions. There were some quick fixes, and some required more troubleshooting and time. We can all appreciate the challenges the clerks and their staff experienced. They serve on the front lines and have to deal with issues outside their control, and I know that Tabitha Clemens is here, and she's going to speak to some of those issues. And in the spirit of continuous improvement, we've appreciated that engagement with the clerks and Tabitha's leadership. I'm thankful for their collaboration along the way and patience as we worked through the obstacles and we continue to address current issues. We've been encouraged by some feedback. Criticism, yes, constructive criticism, and some positive feedback and understanding from some of the clerks since the rollout. And this is some feedback that we got, for example, from the KAVIS, from the Union County clerk. He said, yesterday was our first go live. This was a couple of weeks ago. And each one of my staff members said at one point during the day, I can tell when we figure everything out, this new system is going to be so much better. We love the detail. We love how it step by steps you. We love the checks and reminders. Again, thank you and your team for your dedication and hard work. Union County and ultimately Kentucky will be better because of it. And here's another one that came in just last week from Southeastern County Clerk Tim Price. We could go on and on about the positives of KAVIS versus AVIS. We were in need of a change, and I'm thankful everyone has worked hard to get us one. We know that with change, it creates unknown issues, but that is how to grow into a great success. Heather's got another couple of comments that are worthwhile and interesting. But there's a team of problem solvers committed to working through bumps in the road. While there have been some lingering issues, and there may be more encountered as we progress through the year, the team is really beyond dedicated to the success of this system. One thing to note is that fixes usually occur at night, after business hours, to avoid any further disruptions of the system. The team has been working long hours before and during the launch to execute the project and troubleshoot in real time. Now, we recognize the impact that issues have had on the public. We anticipated longer wait times. That's part of what the shutdown of the offices represented. So we anticipated the longer wait times after the clerk's offices were closed for at least 5 business days while we transferred those 250 million files. We know the issues have caused some routine tasks to take longer than usual, but that will change. We do appreciate their patience and understanding as we work day and night to make things right, and we appreciate the clerk's staffs who are adjusting to a new system. We can assure everyone that the growing pains, though, will be worth it. And leading this KAVIS charge, as I've already introduced Heather Stout, and I've already said how competent and committed she is, and I just want to thank her again for that leadership. And now I will turn it over to Heather to share more about the project and its current status. Heather.
Thank you, Jim. Secretary Gray. Okay, so Jim gave a lot of background, and I'm going to give you a little bit more just to provide a little more context. And I know we've already answered a lot of the questions that you guys have in your packet, and many of you have heard me speak about KAVIS for a number of years. So I'm sure you're all very interested in hearing how things are actually going right now, and the perspective that I have on this. So just as a reminder, this is the 4th attempt at modernizing AVIS. The prior 3 attempts were with vendors that came in through RFP processes to help, and each of those failed. This attempt, I shouldn't say attempt any longer. This project is a custom Microsoft .NET solution that we've developed in-house with a team that we built in-house. I'm very proud of that fact. And it has been implemented. AVIS is now in a read-only mode. Transactions cannot be performed in that system. We're very excited to be at that point. We developed KAVIS to produce a consistent experience across all the clerk's offices. That in itself, that consistency is causing some challenges across the clerk's offices because they were used to doing things a certain way, and now the system is requiring a different approach to things. So that's another part of the learning curve. As I said, the final implementation did replace all the AVIS functionality. The only part of the mainframe for vehicle information type services that remains on the mainframe is the insurance system. So as was already discussed, we do have a history of multiple implementations associated with KAVIS, from boats, print on demand, flat plate solutions, those things you guys have heard about in the past, so I won't go into great detail on those. We did save the most complex for last, which is all vehicles, which we just implemented a few weeks ago. So as you know, as we said multiple times, the complexity of this project, and arguably It is the largest modernization in Kentucky state history. And we might have some arguments from CHFS or unemployment insurance on that fact, but we're the first in some cases to get off the mainframe, so we're going to claim it for now. We're very proud to say that this monumental effort is at this point. It is impacting every single vehicle owner. As many of you have multiple, I'm sure, boats and jet skis and RVs and however many you have, it's impacting every one of those, every business that has fleets or vehicles that they own, dealerships, and the list goes on and on and on. It is a complete generational change to process and technology. While obviously we have to still produce the same results that we did with AVIS, the way that that is being done and how it's being done, the technology being used, the look and feel of the screens, everything is different. 250 million records migrated. I know you guys have heard that number many times. That is a magnificent and monumental amount of data that had to be taken from from a vehicle-centric system, merged together to be customer-centric, and placed into a new system. Very complicated. 45 years of code that has been changed every time there's a new statute across 45 years associated with vehicle or tax vehicle information had to be adjusted in AVIS. 45 years of code modernized. All of the related vehicle and tax legislation re-reviewed, and incorporated into this new system to ensure accuracy and consistency. And then, of course, vast user base, motor vehicle licensing, clerks, PVAs, DOR, law enforcement, dealer commission. The list goes on and on and on. What we discussed in the fall was that we would close clerk offices for some period of time. They were closed for approximately 5 days, some a little longer, because the following week we did incremental rollout across the state. We indicated that wait times would be extended, not only the backlog of work associated with the closure, but the learning curve, processes and procedure changes across the board, and engagement from all offices was not the same. So some offices struggled with that more than others. Now I will elaborate on that a little bit. While some counties, Jefferson for instance, Fayette, a lot of these larger counties, they came to every training. Jefferson even provided a resource on the KAVIS team for years, full time. Their counties are large, particularly Jefferson, so it's a bit of an anomaly. And I think that is helping some of the line issues in that county. But while some were engaged, the learning curve for the process change for those who were not engaged was major. Just the screens are different, the processes are different, the way that transactions unfold in the system are nowhere near the same. So a lot of challenges associated with that learning curve. Of course, system issues. We stated back in the fall that we would expect there to be system issues. If we didn't expect it, we were not being realistic. Something of this magnitude is certainly going to have issues, and the team has worked diligently to resolve many of those, and they're still continuing to work to resolve those as we continue to find those. Now, where we are in the stage of the project right now is in this January to February timeframe. We're in the stabilization and acclimation phase of this project right now, right in the middle of it. And that's exactly what's happening. We're starting to see the system is more stable than it was on day one. We're starting to see clerks become much more acclimated to it. We're starting to see fewer questions and things that are coming in. So I think we're right on track with that stabilization period, and we'll see in the following few weeks a big transition out of that period. Now, a few implementation details. So this system has been live. Well, this presentation is 1 day old now, so for 17 business days instead of 16. But full participation for all counties being on the system is at 12. So we're at 12 business days on this system, which is not very much for a system of this size. The KAVIS team has been averaging 12 to 16 hours a day 7 days a week since prior to go live. Now, I'm not saying that to gain any sympathy. I know you guys work very long hours during the session as well. I'm saying that because I want you to know that this team has a great deal of passion and dedication to making this project a success and to helping the clerks and all other stakeholders be successful with this effort. They are very dedicated. And I'm proud to say that because I helped build that team of people from the very beginning of this project. We've worked really closely with COT to monitor and adjust the servers and the code in real time to improve performance. It's been amazing to me, the transparency that we have on this new modern system on performance issues. Tabitha Clemens will text me and say, it seems to be running kind of slow, and within 1 minute I have a response back from COT on where the issue is. Server B is showing 100% capacity, and now it's gone 2 minutes later. We're getting real-time feedback from COT, very appreciative of the help they've given us during this time, and I think it's running much smoother than it was even the first week, and we'll continue to improve upon that. During the go-live week, January 8th through the 12th, we did have team members from KAVIS in person in some of the larger offices. For days, we had people in Jefferson County, we had people in Grant County, Kenton County, so on and so forth, some of the larger offices, to make sure they had in-person technical assistance in those offices to help continue on with the training as well. Currently, KAVIS and MVL staff are answering questions daily via Microsoft Teams live chat, calls, and emails. At this time, about 90% of the questions that we're getting are how do I questions. How do I do this transaction? What do I do in this situation? Which is good. The other 10% are issues with the system that I would say 99% of the time at this point already have documented. So we already know about them, we already have them prioritized, we already have them scheduled into different releases coming in the future. So I think we're in really good shape with that and are happy to see where we're at this point. We've resolved multiple issues daily with quick fixes, and then at this point we're now on twice-a-week releases on fixing additional problems. One thing I want to point out is that this kind of leads a little bit to complexity as well, but just license plates in this state. We have a lot of license plates. License plates that can be personalized, specialty personalized, motorcycle personalized, the list goes on and on and on. When you look at the data points associated with license plates to code in this system, there's over 23,000 just for license plates. That's prorating information, fees, long-term, short-term. I mean, we could go into great detail there. We've only had 6 reported issues with plate data points in the system. That's amazing. And I commend my team for that. The testing that they did, the resources that we have that were so dedicated to making this successful. They were actually upset that there were 6. I was like, okay, take a break. That's really good. So far this is a few days behind, but as of Friday, over 250,000 registration and title actions had occurred and over 180,000 checkouts through the shopping cart. Now, some of the successes we've seen, we replaced a 45-year-old system that was very difficult to support. We are seeing faster transaction reporting in some cases. We still have some cleanup to do on some of the other transactions that are taking longer than they should. But Jefferson County, for instance, sent us a picture a couple days ago where they had processed 1,500 web renewals by 9 a.m. And they were printed, stuffed in envelopes, and ready to mail by 9 a.m., 1,500 web renewals. That's because you can select all web renewals at one time and process immediately. Those types of improvement initiatives within the system will continue so that we can offer bulk renewal for just in-office transactions and other things that are coming, that are on the way. It supports more enhancements, keeping your license plate, offering new special plates. This 4th bullet here is a big one, extensive validations and guardrails. Now, those in themselves are causing some challenges. These are built into the application to ensure transactions are correct and that data remains accurate. Now, Avis had edits. It had things in it, but not to this magnitude. That consistency is because of guardrails and validations. It is causing some headaches, and it's something that has to be done in order to clean up some of the data that's been migrated over. And it's very necessary, and I think over time will certainly pay dividends. Part of that is in merging customer records. So for many counties, we offered probably 6 years ago barcode readers in each office. We supplied those readers. And we asked all the counties to scan driver's licenses when they came into the office, to go ahead and validate and do a driver's license verification on that customer. Every single transaction, do that. That's what we encouraged. We said, when you do that, the go live will be better because that data is getting cleaned up throughout the past 6 years. And when we merge those customer records together, we'll be able to do it systematically instead of you having to do it manually. Many counties did that very well. Anderson County is here today. They were our winner of our competition for DL verification. They haven't had hardly any issues with customer merge process. And those counties who did that have reduced their transaction time over the past few weeks because they did a lot of prep work, proactive things to help with the migration. Those who didn't, those who lost their barcode readers, are struggling with the customer merge process. It's making things take a little bit longer to merge together. But once we get those customer records all merged across the system, it's going to help us identify uncollected revenue in the state. It's going to set the stage for more expanded services like our electronic lien entitling, address change online, other additional online services to help reduce lines within the office. A lot of things to come. It improves the identification of fraudulent activity. This wasn't even an item that I thought it was going to improve. But we've heard from the Sheriff's Association and others that they're seeing and hearing from the clerks that they're picking up invalid Social Security cards, fake driver's licenses. We're still trying to figure out how the clerk should handle those things. But it's absolutely identifying fraudulent activity and fraudulent identity, which we didn't anticipate as a success. It greatly improves data analysis and information gathering from a reporting standpoint. We can get our hands on this data much easier. Montgomery County Clerk told me this last week. He said Avis was a Chevette and KAVIS is a Corvette. Now, not every county feels that way yet. I say yet because I truly feel like many will feel this way soon. And I appreciated the Montgomery County Clerk telling me that and he often sends little motivational things so we can keep going through this difficult time. So I want to end before asking for questions with a little bit of proof of progress. In January of last year, our average daily collections was 5.3 million each day that the clerks collected across the state. Now, I will say this data is not apples to apples. They didn't have a closure in January of 2023, and there's other factors associated. But in the last 6 days of full county participation, on day 6 of full county participation, which would have been the last Monday, we started collecting more than the average daily collections from January of last year. What that tells me is that the system is working. There are transactions that are not working. There are a lot of transactions that are working. And we're collecting more. We're making up the backlog. We're making progress. And we're seeing incremental improvement every single day in our collections. We'll start to make up the money that was, I shouldn't say lost, the revenue that was not collected in the first week. That's being recollected over the course of the last few weeks. So it's been a challenging project. It's been a really exciting time. Difficult, challenging is to say the least. But we're getting there. We certainly appreciate the patience and the willingness of the clerks to take on the challenge that they have. They are dealing with the front lines, as we've talked about, and that is stressful and frustrating, and customers are agitated and when they have to wait, and we understand that. We want to do everything in our power to minimize it, reduce it, eliminate it. So that's what we're working towards every single day. What questions can I answer for you?
I think Senator Berg had a question.
Actually, a comment. Thank you for a very thorough presentation, and I can't compare this, but I have been in a system, in a hospital, where you change your entire data management base one night, and you have to go in the next morning and try to get through your work, and it turns your stomach because there's no way to keep up. There's no way to get it done. But eventually and ultimately, everybody gets it. Everybody starts figuring it out, and everybody gets on board. So I am extraordinarily familiar with these growing pains, but in a much more high-stakes environment where you don't have the time to wait, where you can't not have the data. So I just say, oh my God, great job, great job, great job. Huge, huge, hard job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Turner had a question.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I'd like to make a statement and some questions, if that's permissible. I want to first thank you all for what you're doing. I've been holding a piece of legislation that involves KAVIS for a long time. The problem I have with it is I got jumped by my clerks and PVAs, and I'm going to give you an example. You said 6 of these were, but there was a guy drove 100 and some miles to my county, one of the counties, from another county. He had a personal license plate, and you all said he owed $1.60 from something, and the clerk couldn't pay it. He couldn't pay it, and it took her many days before she got that done. The problem I have was I was told by staff that I would get a notice of when you all were going to bring this thing on, because I was going to ask the good chairman of the transportation department and the governor to try to have a feeling for the public, because it doesn't stop them public people, and I represent 100-some thousand, each senator in here does, that get tickets because something's wrong. And I was going to do that because us lawyers see it, and I've been called, just like this gentleman, that couldn't get his license plates. Another one couldn't something because the PVA was, I get jumped on in a sense, because of a boat that had been junked some years ago, and I think you all are going back like 10 or 15 years or something with those bills. According to PVA, and in my part of the world, they don't exist anymore. But you're putting a penalty on the public, and then when they get a citation, they got to miss a day's work to go to court.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not their fault. That's us government's fault. Because that gentleman was there to pay his bill, but if he drives back, and I've had a guy that, because the thing wasn't visible on the thing, the machine that the officer had, he got a citation for no insurance, even though he had it, because it wouldn't pick on their machine. That's the real world we live in Eastern Kentucky anyway. And we should have done something to protect those people, because the coal miner misses one day's work and lose his job. And I don't know how much of that you're getting throughout the state, but it's coming to me. I mean, I just happen to be a lawyer, so they get to call me more than they do probably some of the other legislators. But I wish that we'd have undertaken something to slow down that process from acknowledging that we're going to have problems with it. And I give you that example. I just go in the courthouse and, Lord, I get jumped on. Okay? And there's a prime example of what we shouldn't have had. And I haven't checked to see if that guy that drove 100-something miles got stopped because he don't have registration yet. But I did represent some people that got theirs taken care of because of the technology problem. So I hope we can try to do something with that if this is going to be ongoing for weeks especially. Okay? Thank you all for whatever you can do to help. in that aspect of it. And I appreciate Mr. Gray very much and you all for what you're doing. But I've been staying on top of this, Avis, because I've got a bill coming to try to help do some things that gets the old statutes that is going to be changed to meet the KAVIS stuff, okay? So thank you very
Absolutely.
much for what
Thank
you all
you.
can do.
We appreciate that feedback. We have worked with law enforcement to ask for leniency because of system issues. Those who are unable to renew, who still have issues with their transactions, we wanted them to understand that that is a possibility. That doesn't necessarily mean they won't get ticketed, unfortunately. But we have asked law enforcement, KSP, and also local law enforcement agencies, and we've sent them a memo to that effect, so they are aware of the situation. On the PVA issues, I know that was an answer that a question that you asked was some of the major issues, what's taking time on these transactions. We have done a lot of work to clean some of those out. When within the AVIS system, if I sold my vehicle, for instance, in March, it was assessed in January, I owed tax on it, I sold it in March, it was up for renewal in August, but I bought a new car and I paid that car. Because it wasn't a customer-centric system, if I didn't bring that renewal notice in, if I didn't, that tax could still be in there. So when KAVIS came on board, all of those that hadn't been cleared out that were still in there as tax owed were charged. So we talked with DOR 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, and made some rules to clean out a significant portion. I think we did over 500,000 that we eliminated from the system because they were really too old to collect. Things like that we worked with DOR to try to clean up. So I think there's some improvement in that area. I think there's more to improve, but we're on the right path.
I think Senator Turner has another question, then I have a question.
Yeah, just to follow up to that, I just want to know if that boat fee going to impact somebody getting licensed for their automobile. Or is that going to jump over and say you can't register your car
Yes.
because you got a boat fee that's 10 years old that nobody knows where it's junk boat and the PVA don't have nothing and all that, but it's on your records.
If it's on your record, the PVA will have to remove that tax segment so that you can renew your vehicle.
Okay, so you're telling us they can't register their automobile. That's what I wanted you to say.
Correct.
Because you've got some old bill that.
That's part of the issue. That's the cleanup issue, yes.
Okay, and if that takes days, they're going to get traffic citations and what have you.
Well,
The PVA says they called also, and it takes them sometimes 3 days to get called back. So I'm just telling you what I'm told.
that's why we cleaned out a lot of that data. So we think a lot of the old data will be cleaned out so they don't have that issue. It'll just be the recent things that should be paid or that require less time from the PVA to handle. So.
Well, I appreciate you all continue to work with those agencies. You might want to come down a few more years if you find out that, especially everybody in eastern Kentucky, I've got one sitting on a piece of property of mine that I don't know who it belongs to, but somebody's going to have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I bought the property from somebody, so thank you, ma'am.
I have a question. I think you indicated that insurance is still on the mainframe.
Mm-hmm.
How long is it going to take to get that transitioned over so that we can get updates on the insurance aspect?
We're working on that estimate right now for how much we need financially and how much time we need in order to migrate that. I know there's been some discussion of legislation associated with it, so I hope that we're included in any of those conversations because we are working to move that off the mainframe as soon as possible. But we have to make sure that we have the right funding available and everything to do it.
See any other questions? All right, thank you all. We also have Tabitha Clemens here from the Grant County Clerk's office. She's the president of the Kentucky County Clerks Association. If you would come to the table and identify yourself and any witnesses that may testify with you.
Stay.
Good morning. I'm Tabitha Clemens, County Clerk in Grant County, current president of the Kentucky County Clerks Association. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today to speak about the KAVIS implementation in the clerk's offices. As customers throughout the Commonwealth have experienced, there are longer than normal wait times in the county clerk's offices. Overall, there have been vast improvements to the system from when it launched the second week of January. As bugs are fixed, KAVIS's features are better understood, and each day we are processing more transactions and turning away fewer customers. That's all good news. However, county clerks are still hitting some roadblocks with KAVIS. There are transaction types that we cannot process, such as apportioned certificates, some duplicate title issues, and some dealer transactions. We also encounter challenges when it comes to random or unusual circumstances that are brought into the office. In some cases, we are simply unable to correct a title issue that we would have been able to fix in AVIS. We just can't fix some of those right now. So an example that I had in my office earlier this week that we are working with the team to get corrected is similar to a circumstance that Senator Turner spoke about. I have a customer who has 2 vehicles to renew that are going to expire today. And her 2 vehicles are not past due. There is a camper that's coded in her name. She still owns the camper, but when it was put in the system in the early 2000s, it was coded as a mobile home, not as a camper. So that has presented some issues, and we are unable to renew her vehicles right now because of that camper. So that takes coding, and it takes time to identify these issues. We will have these come up, I feel like, for the remainder of this year as customers come in. It's going to take a full year as we see customers at our counters to fix all of the things, all of the problematic things that could arise. However, these problems are fewer and fewer because of the work of the KAVIS team and KYTC. So, the bottom line with my customer is that she's willing to pay her taxes, but she can't. She's been very understanding. I'm very fortunate to be from a small county who has really understanding people at our doors. Some other counties are not as fortunate as I, but, there's just not workarounds. And that's what we were used to in Avis. We would figure out a way to make it work because that's what we do. We strive to serve the customers in our offices. But with the complexities of Kentucky's vehicle registration laws and the amount of bad data created in the millions of transactions in Avis over the decades that it's been in existence, it's not surprising the bugs like this are going to be problematic. I'm confident that the KAVIS team will continue to work and fix these random issues as they arise. In the meantime, we are asking the public for a lot of patience. Unfortunately, one challenge to us and to the customers has been when we call and we need help, our help hasn't been as quick as what we're used to. There's more questions being asked than ever before. And because of that, the staff at Motor Vehicle Licensing has been, overrun with our questions and concerns. The KAVIS team, too, have been overrun. We appreciate the employees at Motor Vehicle Licensing for continuing to work with us, but that's been problematic. One other thing that has been kind of overwhelming to us is that the state's vendor who mails postcards went ahead and mailed the March renewals early this year. So we have the closure in January, a backlog of January customers wanting to come to our door. There's just naturally people who buy vehicles at the end of the year for tax purposes or for Christmas presents or whatever the case may be. So there's more vehicles bought towards the end of the year. So we have that backlog of dealer work and mail coming into our offices. And then the March renewals get mailed. And we're seeing people from March barreling through the door, right and left. And March is our busiest month of the year in the county clerk's office. We see all of our farm tags throughout the entire Commonwealth are renewed in March. Campers, trailers, March birthdays, all commercial weighted plates are due in March. So you compound the issue of being closed for the week, the new system, the learning curve, and now we have March renewals on our hands. And February is not too far behind. For whatever reason, March got out quicker than February. So that has compounded the problem for us. Further adding to the stress has been just the overall challenges of a new system. Right? There is a learning curve. It doesn't matter how much you train. My office took full advantage of every training opportunity that KYTC and the KAVIS team provided, but there is just a learning curve when a customer's standing in front of you and you're in a new system. You have to figure out what it is that they have that they need, and there's a process to the system. The way that we process titles before is not exactly the same way we process them now. Yes, the criteria is very similar, but the system requires it in a different order now. So it's just made the problems compound a little bit. But some things that we're doing to inform the constituents that we serve, things that they need to do to be prepared to come into our office. Number one, bring your driver's license or your state issued ID. That makes your transaction go so much smoother when we can scan in your driver's license. If we're constantly having to ask for your date of birth, it takes longer to process the transaction than just having your driver's license. Bring in your proof of insurance. Even if it's normally in our system and you have, a local agent who takes care of you and takes care of the needs that you have for your insurance, we're still asking you to bring in that paper proof for the time being because it makes the transaction go quicker. Additionally, bring in your renewal notice. You don't know how many people come to our office and they don't have anything. They expect us to know their plate number. We don't know your plate numbers. We don't know our own plate numbers right now. So please keep in mind to bring your renewal cards, your last year's registration, grab that out of your glove box before you come into the office. It helps make the transition of getting you merged into the new system and getting your vehicles under your account name so much smoother when you do these things for us. Before I conclude, I do want to take a moment to personally recognize John Eiler and the KAVIS team. Their dedication to this project has been unbelievable. While there's bugs, while there's been, some issues, vastly we're seeing improvements. And it's because of the long hours that they've been working and their sheer determination to make this work is the reason why we're moving in the right direction. And before I turn it over and take any questions from you, I want to personally thank Heather Stow. She always takes my calls, no matter what time, day or night, that I text, I call her, I email her. We kind of have a night routine where we check in almost. When I do send her those text messages and say, look, the system's slow, it's because I'm waiting on a customer on the front line. I'm a clerk who waits on customers every day that I can. That's the part of the job that I enjoy most, is having customer interactions. And when we have, when we do see slowdowns, those are becoming very rare. I mean, this week, it's been one time that I sent something, it worked itself out within a few minutes, and it's been much, much better than what we were seeing the first few weeks. But I'm just in awe of Heather's can-do attitude. She's solution-oriented. When there's an issue that isn't even in her wheelhouse, she's willing to step up and to try to help the clerks make a difference. And the last thing that I would like to do is I forgot to say this yesterday, and I do want to say this publicly, is the county clerks couldn't do this without the work of the PVA offices. It has put a burden on them as well, and we're constantly calling them, sending customers over to them. It's not something that it was routine in our office, but not to the extent that the demand that they have now. So I appreciate their collaboration as well.
Mills has a question.
Just curious if, like, the clerk's offices and the PVA offices are experiencing any internal, like, hardware costs, network costs associated with this upgrade that are out of the ordinary, that were unexpected?
Not that I've been made aware of, Senator Mills. So the county clerks operate our technology fees out of the second dollar of every registration. So there's a second dollar committee that meets that helps supply the pod printers that do the print on the demand decals, the barcode scanners for driver's license, the computer upgrades that we see in our office. We're all on rotations with that technology. So there's not anything that I'm aware of that have been overburden our office as far as technology costs.
Good. And I just want to say thank you to KYTC. I've called Commissioner a couple times, and he's bailed me out on a couple of questions that I had specifically for. We had some trucking issues at the very beginning of the process, and folks had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of inventory of new trucks that were unable to be licensed, and drivers waiting to earn a living. So I think that is getting better. So thank you.
Seeing no further questions, I would like to thank all the presenters here today. We understand this is a very complicated issue as you're transitioning into this new system. We will continue to monitor this, and if the Cabinet foresees any legislative changes that we need to undertake, let us know. We want to be a partner in this and try to help facilitate a smooth transition for our constituents in the Commonwealth. And again, very interested on the issues that Senator Turner and the clerk mentioned, as well as trying to get that insurance transitioned over off the mainframe. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
And thank you all for your public service.
Thank you.